Hello, my name is Arnav, and I'm here to present an overview of Bayun and demo the app. Again, Bayun is a trustless SDK for protecting sensitive data in SaaS applications. So, what is trustless? In our eyes, trustless means that the owner of the data has exclusive control of their data. There is no server-side logic or infrastructure, and no trust is placed in any humans. We believe that this model is better than both zero trust and end-to-end encryption. But before delving in, we would like to highlight some of our past experiences. Specifically, I want to talk about Continental, where we invented the key as a service product. This enables smartphones to act as keys for cars. One specific partnership between Apple and BMW meant that an iPhone could unlock all the newer BMW models. This Apple car key was so secure that nobody, not Tim Cook, execs at Apple, execs at BMW, the developers, could access this key. In fact, this digital key was more secure than the physical key that comes with the car. We want to use this experience to bring the best possible security to all SaaS services. But why is this needed? It is evident that our data today is not safe at all. These strictest regulated industries, finance and health, have seen major breaches in the past few years. Personal data has been compromised again and again, and this pattern is revealing itself across industries. I would like to refer to a report compiled by MIT professor Stuart Madnick. He showed that there is an increasing number of breaches, and we are more vulnerable than ever. He cites two main reasons for this. One, there is more data in the cloud than ever before, and two, that data is more personal and sensitive than it has been in the past. This leads to today, where we believe our current model is broken. We argue that it's broken because of how it protects data. The security industry is evolved to protect the perimeter, or around the data. I'll explain this using the analogy of a princess inside a castle. Today's model, assuming the princess is the data, argues for building walls and moats to protect the princess. If that is not enough, we scale up to bigger walls and deeper moats. However, this model is flawed and unpractical because it relies on one central assumption: the princess doesn't leave the castle. This isn't true today. Our data is moving around all over the place and is accessed by many different parties at many different times. It is rarely ever stationary. So building a robust castle is not very helpful when protecting the princess if the princess moves. As the cost of cybercrime starts to dwarf GDPs of countries, it's time for a new model of security. We need to protect the princess herself, or the data. And an example of this would be using armor to protect the princess. That armor can travel with the princess no matter where the princess is, and is more reliable and a more useful model than building a huge castle that is rarely ever used. Professor Madnick agrees. We need stronger protections for consumer data in the cloud. In addition, McKinsey also agrees, releasing a report stating that SaaS vendors have not done their job in securing their services. I'd like to quickly pause to refer to Professor Madnick's report. He recently released a follow-up to his initial report this December 2023. He claims that the number of cyber attacks rose faster than he expected and concludes that, and I quote, "It is imperative for organizations to incorporate the innovative solution of end-to-end encryption for protecting user data in the cloud," end quote. We believe that Bayun has the best solution to do that both easily and quickly, especially for enterprises use cases. There are companies following this new trustless model. They are led by Apple, but they are mainly in the consumer space. Following the release of Apple's Advanced Data Protection Program in December 2022, all content on Apple iCloud, such as notes and photos, are inaccessible to anyone in the world except for the user. This is the genesis. We want to provide the same level of security at the enterprise scale. We would like to demonstrate how this works using a quick video conferencing demo app. We built this app for two reasons. A, it is very easy to visualize the importance of privacy and security and whether data is accessed or not through video conferencing. And B, because of the controversy in the area. Facing privacy concerns, Zoom had to spend $100 million to buy a company to fix just a part of the problem we solve. Now on to the demo. So hey everyone, I'm going to demo the video conferencing app now just to get a better idea of how Bayun works. So I'm going to, let's say I'm user one from application test apps. So after I log in, I will be able to create a secure meeting. This meeting, as you can see right now, is in room 13. So if I want to invite a collaborator, for example, user 2, then I can go to a different window and then log in as user 2. User 2's account is actually set up with the full Face ID protection, so I'd have to enter a passphrase as well. And then it'll also take a picture of my face just to verify that I am in fact me. After it logs in, I can now join the meeting. Already the room ID is 13, so I'll enter 13. And I'll let it use my microphone. And now you can see again, now there's me and peer 1 and peer 2. They happen to both be me, but user 1 and user 2 are here. Now, there's also an account for user 3. So if user 3 wants to join this meeting, and then let's say user 3 is currently not invited. So if user 3 tries to join, what was this, room 13, it will actually not let user 3 join that meeting because we already agree they don't have access to it. So for example, a user is not a member of this room. However, if I go, where is user 1? User 1, add member, user 3. And then now I try to join room 13. I will now be able to join the room. As see now, all the peers are now showed up. So now I'd like to show what happens if any third party tries to join the room. So the threat with any hacker or any malicious entity is that if someone can have access to that room that is not invited as a member, then that data can, the rooms, for example, the conversation can be recorded, stolen, etc. So if this were, for example, any admin, IT admin joining as a guest or any uninvited party that gets access to a Zoom link, for example. So what would happen is if they join as a guest, as I join now, peer 1 and peer 2, user 1 and user 2, are totally encrypted. Both their video and sound is unparsable by me. And in addition, in the original meeting, I am also unrecognizable to the other two people in the meeting. This is a great demonstration of how the user doesn't have the right key to decrypt the video call data because they weren't given access to it. So even if any malicious entity got access to this video call, they will still not be able to understand the contents of the call because they don't have the right key to decrypt it. So let's leave the meetings. That is the simple demo. I hope that you learned a little more about how Bayun worked, and now we can go back to continuing with the presentation. Now, I want to explain how Bayun's process differs significantly from the current SaaS authorization flow. We'll go through the current flow first. First, we have our authorization service, which goes through multiple parts. We have the authentication service that verifies that a user is in fact what they claim to be, a key store, which stores all the keys in a centralized area, the access policies, which controls which user has access to which data, and finally, the data store. So, the entire process would be when a user requests to access data, the authentication service verifies the user is in fact who it thinks it is, and then then checks the access table to make sure that user has access to the data, and then unlocks the key to give the user the data. We can explain this through user 1 as shown here, and we see that user 1 goes through the entire process, and then key A is used to encrypt and decrypt data A. Let's say data is shared among more users in data 2 and user 2 and user 3. In this case, we see that the access policies table has updated to include users 2 and 3, but still the same process. User 2 goes to the authentication service to verify user 2 is in fact user 2. If that is true, the access policies table is checked to ensure that user 2 has access to data A, and then key A is released to decrypt the data. And if we have more users adding more data, the same method scales. One thing I would like to highlight is that all the keys are gray in this slide, indicating that they are managed by the centralized authorization service. The authorization service could in fact be using one key for all the data or an arbitrary number of keys. This would make the current situation worse. But even by this standards, where we assume the best, this model is still very flawed for a couple of reasons. One, there are privileged users. IT admins or execs in the company can access user data, meaning they can bypass the entire authentication process. This access can be exploited either internally through a rogue actor or externally through government pressure, hackers, or blackmailing at any level. Two, the authentication service is trusted. This authentication service can either be done, when it's independent, it can be done through services like Okta, for example, which have been hacked multiple times in the past year. Making these independent means that a user can pretend to be someone else, and if they bypass that authentication service, they have bona fide access to all the data. This will lead to a crumbling of the system, leaving the entire infrastructure vulnerable. This is where Bayun differs. One, we use the fact that the key to decrypt the data is only available in the secure enclave of the user's end device. The same secret key is used for both authentication and decryption, coupling the two. As we can see, we follow a very similar structure where a user wants to insert data A, and then we have a key for user 1 to access data A, and that is updated in the access policies as well. However, there is no trusted authentication service. It is all built into one. This means that every user has control of their keys. This is delineated through the colors of the keys, as we can see as they correspond to each user. There is no central server that had access to them because only the user's end device has the right key. So even if the entire server side is compromised or attacked by malware or hacked, no user data can be accessed at all. And even better, when sharing data, the access is controlled by individual users. A unique key is needed for each user to access each piece of data without a central service using the keys on device. And the best part for enterprise is that this model can be scaled across arbitrary access policies with zero trusted infrastructures. The policy is embedded into the data via the keys, and thus travel with the data no matter if the data is in the data store or wherever it is. This makes our trustless model better than both zero trust and end-to-end encryption, since it's solved across all levels. We like to explain this given by how the security industry has evolved related to technology. Initially, we shrank the perimeter of data using firewalls at the network level. Once this was not enough, we evolved into zero trust, where security was at the application boundary. However, our model is very distinct. Instead of securing around the data, again, we secure the data itself. So this means using math and cryptography, not buggy code, we can guarantee that data is secure and only the right people have access to it. And we are ahead of the rest of the industry. While Apple and Zoom, among others, have made strides, they leave aspects unresolved. And Bayun stands out when it comes to enterprise administration. That is a problem that neither of these companies have attempted to solve, and Bayun stands out in all metrics. We believe that it's not a question of if you are breached, it is a question of when, and that time is coming, and we believe, as a vendor, you have two choices. Option one is wait. When you wait, you risk being hacked, exploited, or losing market share due to the lack of security. These can all be detrimental to business. The other option is to build it yourself. This can be distracting and time-consuming and take away focus from what the company is trying to accomplish, both in terms of cost and time. The third and best option is to buy from Bayun. We are the best solution on the market, the only solution for enterprise, and that can be customed to your individual corporate needs. We believe that this would be valuable to companies that deal with critical user data. For example, companies that deal with finances, payroll systems, taxes, health apps, or any service that is focused on being secure and private needs to follow this model of data, and we would be a great fit for those companies. And you can get started today for free. We have SDKs on both the server side and client side for all types of devices, and it's really easy to get started. Once again, thank you for listening to the presentation.